Ahoj všichni, I'm Jen. Welcome to Dream Prague, which is my little collection of video essays and fake news shows attempting to share everything I learn about the Czech culture with you. In last week's video, I shared part 1 of the top 10 things I think define the Czech mentality. Now, of course, it's impossible to sum up the mentality of an entire nation of people. But if you watch last week's video, I explained why I'm trying to do it. So definitely check that out if you haven't seen it yet. So on to the top 5 things that I think make up the Czech mentality. Once upon a time, there was a little girl. She was the middle child in a terribly strict household with an overbearing father, and no one ever listened to what she had to say or took her opinions seriously. And when she grew up and left her overbearing family, she started talking and telling everyone around her her opinions. The mailman, the grocery clerk. And it was like a flood of opinions and feelings and ideas that she'd had bottled up inside her. And even when it wasn't her time to speak, or even if she didn't know too much about the topic, she couldn't help herself from blabbing to everyone around her. This is sometimes what I feel about the Czech need to give their opinions. Now, I love opinionated people. I have a whole channel where I give my opinions. But man, I have never met more opinionated people than the Czechs. Maybe the French, or maybe Jewish people. Each of those groups have a culture of debate, so it's natural that they produce very opinionated people. But you'll rarely meet a Czech that doesn't believe he is an expert in the topic at hand. And if I were to psychoanalyze a whole country, that's essentially what this video is doing, I'd say that the Czechs are even more opinionated because their older, louder siblings are constantly talking over their heads and never bother to listen to what the little brother has to say. I find this to be most annoying when they have very strong opinions about my country and my culture. Like, they've never been to the United States, they've probably never met any Americans, but they know everything that's wrong with our politicians, our laws, and our people. I truly cannot imagine telling someone everything that's wrong with their country. Except that I'm doing it right now. But I've lived here for 10 years, so I get at least 10 minutes of opinions, right? Czechs. I kid because I love. And part of being opinionated is telling it like it is, or not sugarcoating it, as we say. This can also be very harsh for a foreigner. Americans, but I think especially Canadians and Brits, make a big effort to dance around uncomfortable truths. They would never tell you that you looked fat in a dress or that your presentation was terrible. We go to extensive lengths to disguise our criticisms by adding all sorts of positive, reinforcing compliments, to the point that the person that we're trying to criticize might not even understand that they're being criticized. It's just not polite to criticize in our cultures. But for Czechs, it's inauthentic to say anything but what exactly you mean. Like, why waste someone's time with nonsense? Just tell them what you really mean. This can be a bit harsh when it's directed at you, but don't take it personally and just appreciate the honesty. Complaining is known as the Czech national sport. But Czechs don't really complain in an attempt to identify a problem in order to fix it. They just want to complain about it. And I get it. Sometimes complaining releases some stress. It's a way to bond with other complainers. But they don't do it in an American Karen, I want to speak to the manager way. Karen wants the manager to fix her problem. Katka just wants to make her displeasure known. It's not untypical for an American to just grin and bear it instead of complaining. My husband will do this all the time. He'd rather not spoil the mood at dinner by complaining that the waitress gave him the wrong meal or the wrong beer. He will just go with the flow because complaining puts a negative emotion into the atmosphere. People who complain are a lot harder to please, and people who are hard to please make other people uncomfortable, and as Americans or Brits, we don't ever want to make people feel uncomfortable. But I think a Czech would feel uncomfortable if they had nothing to complain about. It would be like openly admitting that their life was really good, which can seem like bragging or boasting. And Czech people would rather commiserate with an equally displeased person than with someone whose life seemed perfect. Czechs despise political correctness. As an American or a Canadian or a Brit, you will likely find yourself in a conversation with a Czech person and they will unabashedly pronounce some opinion about another race or nationality or a gender, and it can be a bit shocking. You don't hear these things in polite company back home. Sometimes the political incorrectness can come in Czech humor, and I put this down to the feeling the Czechs have that no topic is sacred. War, death, racism, cannibalism, everything is up for a laugh. But also they can make sweeping politically incorrect generalizations in a serious conversation, and you just kind of feel yourself stunned, like, how do I respond to this? Do I change the subject? Do I laugh it off? It can be uncomfortable. And although the Czechs will share all their opinions with you and might say something that an American or a Brit might think is politically incorrect, they're also quite content to let people live their own lives, which is quite refreshing because ironically, that's not always the case back in America. I think many Czechs feel like it's none of their business what you do in your own home. In my opinion, this goes hand in hand with the lack of religiosity in this country. Czechia has the highest non-believing populations in the world. Around 75 to 80% of Czechs do not follow any religion. I'm not sure if this number factors in Moravians, as they tend to be more religious. But mostly, I think Czechs just like to go about their own business and not be too concerned about what their neighbors do. They don't want to be told what to do, and so they kind of just let others alone. In particular contrast to the American mindset, Czechs are not particularly aspirational when it comes to material successes. I've heard it said that Czechs can be envious people. They envy their neighbor's goat, as the old cliche goes. But envy is a private emotion that I don't see because I'm not in people's heads, so I can't really tell. But while Americans are born into this mindset of making something of yourself and doing better than your parents did financially, Czechs are more content in their circumstances. Like once you have a good place to live and a nice life, you don't need to really aspire to something more than that. Whereas an American, and I've talked about this in other videos, is never really content with their circumstances. They always aspire to do more, to be more, to have more. And Czechs also don't like to show off their successes or, expensive things. Of course, there are few people, probably mostly in Prague, who are a bit flashy and they like to show off their new car or expensive bag or whatever. But that's mostly true in every country. I think in general, the Czechs are more sensible about spending money. Some might even say cheap. And even if they could afford nice things, they're not trying to show it off because that would provoke envy in their neighbors. And therefore, the Czechs, in my opinion, like to expend low perspiration, if I could say it like that. Why work until 5:30 when you can go home at 5? Meaning, Czechs do not work themselves to death because why would you work late at night to make your boss rich when you can enjoy a beer at the pub with friends? And the beer only costs a few dollars. It actually takes a little while to get used to that as an American, to just slow down and be satisfied with your circumstances. It's odd because so much of American culture and the economy is centered around this hard Protestant work ethic, like you can always work harder. Without hard work and an aspiration to grow in wealth and influence, who am I? I think the Czech's answer would be, well, I'm a Czech. And this is some good Czech beer. And if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go drink it and complain about all these damn foreigners making videos about me. So I hope you enjoyed my take on the Czech mentality, and I hope I wasn't too wrong. If you haven't seen part 1, you'll definitely want to check that out. Let me know in the comments if you agreed with my assessments or not. Uvidíme se příští týden. Ahoj.